Welcome to the Great Greeks podcast, where we showcase Hellenic greatness from all corners of the world. Hosted by Elias Kosmidis.
Welcome, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Great Greeks podcast. My name is Elias. I'm in Adelaide, South Australia. For those that don't know where that is, just look it up on Google Maps or whatever you use there. Today I've got Denny Prokopos, or do you prefer Denny?
They look. They call me Denny. They call me Dionisi. They call me Dionysios. They call me 300. Super close friends of mine call me 3000.
Oh, that's interesting.
Denny or Dionisi is fine. The last name Prokopos.
Prokopos, awesome. Thank you so much. I've got a.
How you write it is how you say it.
Prokopos, yeah. I've got a friend whose first name is Prokopi, right? And he's Cypriot. And for a moment, I thought you might have been Cypriot. Are you Cypriot?
No, my father's family is from Kadila, which is in the mountains of Tripoli, Levidi, that region. My mother's side is from Zakynthos, and her side of the family is from like Pigadakia, Katastari, and Zakynthos.
Beautiful. So you got a bit of Ireland, and you got a bit of mainland, I guess, DNA.
Yeah. I got all the DNA.
Beautiful. Very good. Very good.
And I like my complete last name is like my last name is Prokopos, but on my mother's side it's Plarinos Patharos, and on my father's side it's Prokopos, but it's also Paisopoulos. So my family, Paisopoulos, the last name, the root. It originally comes from Constantinople.
Malista. Very good. I was going to ask you about that. Where your heritage is from.
Yeah, I'm part Pontic.
Part Pontic. Yeah, I'm half Pontian as well. There you go. Yeah, interesting.
I'm like 25% Pontic.
Do you know what part of Bondos your ancestors came from? Have you gone that deep?
Unfortunately, my family had to leave, like the others.
Yeah.
So, to avoid the genocide that happened. But they just said Migracia. That's all I know.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they were living in Constantinople.
Yeah. You were born in the US?
I'm born in San Francisco, but my first language is Greek. They taught me Greek first.
Interesting. So your parents spoke to you a Greek at home, sent you to Greek school, and
I actually went to a Greek school up until I was 10 years old.
Yep.
I was educated in a Greek Orthodox school, and there they taught us. We had our classical education. They also taught us Greek Orthodoxy. Most of the kids there were Greek. We had some Russian kids, and we had some kids that were like mixed with Greek and something else. But like that was the early part of my education. So like I actually have a classical like Greek Orthodox education, like coming up.
And from what I understand, San Francisco's got a decent Greek population.
We do.
And the other thing I've learned just doing the podcast and speaking with other Greeks in the US is that the church plays a predominant role in education and community.
It does. I go to the church in San Francisco. I go to Annunciation. My parents, they were married there. My brother was baptized there. Right. I was baptized in IU's Dionysios Church in Zakynthos, where like the church where the saint's body is. So I was very lucky. They took me there and they baptized me. But in San Francisco, I go to Annunciation, but I went to Holy Trinity School.
Right. Your parents, they came from Greece. They were born in Greece and came to the US.
My father was born in Greece.
Right.
His grandfather was the first one here. That was the reason they came. They came with the paperwork from my dad's papu. My mother's side of the family, my mother, she was actually born in Montreal, Canada. So, and her family immigrated here when she was a teenager. And very funny, my mom's father opened up a pizza restaurant, and my dad went to work there, and he told my told my grandfather, I'm going to marry your daughter, and he did. And all these years they're still together. All these years they still have a pizzeria. They own
That's
Bravo
awesome.
Pizza. Thank you. They own Bravo Pizza in San Francisco. It's a well-known pizzeria. It has a
That's
lot of
awesome.
history.
That's
Been around
awesome.
since 1963.
So you next time I'm in San Francisco, I'm gonna have to check it out, of course. So you're sort of like first or second generation, I guess, Greek in the US, you could
Correct.
say.
Correct.
1.5, let's say.
Yeah,
And
but every summer though, like from the age of 5 up until 12 years old, I would go to Zakynthos and stay with my yayam papu, and we did our summers there. And I was actually really lucky that from 2012 up until today, I still go to Greece every year. Uh, Before I was teaching a lot more in Greece. Now I don't teach as much.
mm-hmm.
But before I toured the whole country, I taught seminars in all of Greece, taught I've taught over 10 seminars in Athens, uh, taught in Thessaloniki, I taught in Lamia, I taught in Zakynthos, I fought in Ceres. I've been around the whole country. I taught the whole country. I was the very first person to go to Greece and teach No Gi and talk about No Gi Jiu Jitsu, because I am the first 10th planet black belt, and that's something very specific to my style of Jiu Jitsu. So all those Greeks that you see today in Greece that are in Athens or in Thessaloniki that are teaching No Gi Jiu Jitsu, they're teaching that because of me. I inspired them to do that. Yep. I was the first Greek world champion too,
What is a No Gi Jiu Jitsu? Just out of curiosity, I'm ignorant, to be perfectly honest.
No, it's okay. It's
There's
okay.
Jiu
So
Jitsu, and it sounds like there's kind of these subcategories or subtypes, styles.
I'll explain it very simply.
Yeah.
The gi is the jacket, the belt, the pants. No gi is the rash guard and the shorts, or just shorts,
Okay.
And so I'm the first black belt of Eddie Bravo in 10th Planet Jiu Jitsu, and that was that's been one of my missions since I was 19 years old, was basically to spread jiu-jitsu to the world. Something that's different about me. Most people are just fighters or teachers. I'm both. I genuinely believe I was born by God to be both.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
I won.
interesting.
I won all the in my time at my weight. I won every title there was to win except ADCC, but they don't have a weight. They don't have my weight. So because they have 143 or 167. 143 is too light for me to make. 167 I can do, but I'm not gonna lie. It's like 169. But I don't want to take steroids and be that big. I want to fight at 155, which I have my whole career.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't have that weight class.
Okay.
And but at my weight, I won everything.
We'll get into some of those achievements as well. I wanted to ask you first of all, you mentioned at 19. At what point did you realize this is what you wanted to do? This is the goal that you wanted to strive for, and why?
All right. So I'll tell you something interesting. When I was a kid, I used to tell my mother that I want to be a fighter and a priest.
Interesting.
I am. And you're like, what do you mean you're a priest? Well, I'm not a priest, but I mean, I still talk philosophy every day. And I mean, now because of the unique situation that I'm in, I talk about God now. Before, like, I was not mentioning that, I was cloaking that. But now I feel a necessity in my teachings. It's now time in who I am as a man and to talk more about that. I started training when I was 4 years old. My mom put me. Then I trained till like 8 years old. Well, they put me when I was 4, the Taekwondo and Judo. Then when I was like 6, I started doing Judo. Then like around 9, 10 years old, I stopped. Then I started doing Japanese jiu-jitsu with my uncle. But when I was 12, I started doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And like from the very first class, I fell in love. I love the concept of martial arts, respect, discipline. There's a spiritual element to fighting. But when I was 14, I was like, yeah, I want to be a teacher and a fighter, but I want to be a successful fighter. So I have the recognition so people come to me to learn from me.
Yeah, sure.
So when I was 14, I made the goal of becoming a world champion. And at 19, I realized that, which is funny because like Alexander the Great's my idol.
Mm.
And, you know, he was 19 when he became king of Macedonia.
Yeah. I think he's I think he's the idol for a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah. He's a fascinating story, of course. Yeah. What a person to kind of aspire to. You know, you can see what he achieved in such a short time. You know, even when I was reading about him, I was thinking, wow, he did that at that age. That it's like an example, isn't it? Something we can shoot for. Obviously, it's an amazing example, but it motivates you. You can't help but be motivated by it. Yeah.
I mean, Alexander is the greatest. What he accomplished still today, no one has. I mean, there have been other empires, but the way that he did it, and he was a real general that fought from the front, and that's what I always strive to be, is someone that fights from the front. Because all these years, you know, when I was 19 and I won the worlds, I was the #1 fighter for 10th Planet. I was leading from the front. I was fighting, and then the whole generation that came after, all the champions, they were my black belts. I promoted them from white to black. The whole generation that came after me. As a matter of fact, in the beginning of my black belt career, I would go out, I would be the first one to fight. Then my team would fight. We would win tournaments. We won Gracie Worlds as a team, 3 times. My team did. It won, and going back to Alexander, like, even most recently, like for me too, like, I'm not going to lie, like, I try to do everything like Alexander. I know that sounds crazy, but I even conduct my politics. Yeah. I'll tell them, hey, you can give me what I want or I'll burn you to the ground. Straight up. Straight up, fuck it. Straight up, fuck it, because like that's my world. That's the world that I live in. I live in the fight world.
Yeah.
I in like, we're not in the Matrix.
I understand. And
sometimes sometimes that's how we do it. We go to war. And that's why Alexander is the greatest example for a person like me, because we live in a weak society today where they don't want to believe in war. Our God is war. Our God wars. From the Bible, they talk about, God and the devil, Jesus and the devil. You know what I'm saying?
They don't understand. Evil.
Yeah. They don't understand. But they don't want to understand. They don't want to. They don't want to because they're afraid. I get it. I used to be like that too.
And some people, make the argument that it's also by design to keep people from thinking that way. But that's part of the war tactic, I guess, from some people, perhaps, by design. And, Alexander the Great is like, when I grew up, my dad always taught me about Alexander the Great. He'd show me a map, Macedonia, Elada, Alexander went all this way, and you'd see this thing and you go, how? No planes, no trains. As a kid, your mind's trying to comprehend it, but you understand the significance. As I got older, I heard about more examples. You've got Leonida, with a few people, made a difference, sacrificed himself for the greater good. You hear about Kolokotroni, Karaiskaki, all the people during the Greek War of Independence against the Ottoman Turks, right? So many examples that as I grew older, I realized that our ancestry and our history as Greeks is also the example for the world, going back to the martial art, Jiu Jitsu. Again, I'm ignorant. I understand Jiu Jitsu a little bit, but maybe give us a little bit of an idea about what that discipline is, what it means, and what separates it from other disciplines.
Jiu Jitsu, the way that I practice it and the way the majority of the world practices it, it's basically, well, I do No Gi Jiu Jitsu, which I've already explained. It's without the clothes. However, I do have an education in the gi. I do have that. The objective is to control your opponent. And once you can control them, you can submit them. The whole objective is to submit them. But submission is not possible without control. So it's basically the art and science of control that leads to submission. If I was to sum it up in a very simple term, control that leads to submission. However, jiu-jitsu is much more than that. It's a philosophy. It's a philosophy for life. It's a strategy for life. And I constantly live that strategy. I'm doing that right now with you. Yeah. From how I even answer your questions, I'm going to answer them with jiu-jitsu. I'm always going to relate it to jiu-jitsu. That's my filter. That's how I see the world. I see the world in three ways. Mm-hmm. In a Hellenistic approach, a Greek Orthodox perspective, and jiu-jitsu. Those are my lenses. Being Greek Orthodox, because there's a difference between being Greek and Greek Orthodox. There's a difference. People don't understand that, because Greek first, it's our like philosophy and like the things pre-Christianity.
Yeah.
I have that. I'll never let that go. I learned all that. I studied that. That's who we are. So I would never deny that. But then there's the Greek Orthodoxy, which I also have. But then there's my jiu-jitsu, which I have. That's what I am. That's what I represent.
Is jiu-jitsu becoming popular in Greece now that you've been
going
there?
It is. Yeah. There's over 30 jiu-jitsu academies in Greece, in Athens, Athens right now.
Yeah. Right. Because jiu-jitsu, again, me being on the outside, seems to be something that is very, very closely associated with this whole UFC phenomenon. Is that fair to say?
So here's the thing. In 1993, when it was style versus style, jiu-jitsu proved that it's the ultimate martial art. Yeah. After 93, everybody started learning jiu-jitsu. Everything became mixed. So you cannot have MMA without jiu-jitsu. It's impossible. If you get two people and they fight, eventually they get tired. Eventually they end up on the ground. That's what happens. That's jiu-jitsu. There's one guy on top. There's one guy on bottom. The bottom is jiu-jitsu.
Right.
And jiu-jitsu is the only martial art out of all the martial arts that focuses on fighting from your back. That's not the objective of judo. That's not the objective in wrestling. That doesn't even exist in wrestling. The moment you're on your back, you're giving up points or you're getting pinned in wrestling. Same thing in judo, same thing in sambo. Jiu-jitsu is the only martial art that you can fight off your back. And there's three strategies in one-on-one combat. The first is to exchange strikes. The second is the ability to exchange strikes and take someone down and pound them. The third, grab the guy, pull the guy on top of you and submit him with a submission, or go from your back to the top, hold him, pin him, submit him with either a strangle, a joint manipulation, or strikes. I worked for the UFC. Back in the day. Well, I've been with them in a few different capacities, but I was actually the grappling consultant, and I was in Joe Rogan's ear. And I was doing the replays when I was younger. Joe got me that job. When Eddie got busier in his life, they moved me into that position, and I occupied that position. I was the second person to occupy that position, actually. I had it for 5 years, but then I got too busy.
Okay.
I basically controlled for 5 years what jiu-jitsu looked like on the replays to the world, and no one knew that. I had that, and I also was the guy that was feeding info to Joe's ear, so I had that influence. It was a very unique position to occupy. I learned a lot. I have a completely different perspective on fighting because of that, because I was basically executive production, and I knew the decision before it was announced to you guys. You know, I saw everything in the truck. I know what they want. I know what it's supposed to look like. And I know the business of it and what it really is.
Yeah.
Because of that, I have a completely different lens of that. You know,
I had no idea you were part of that, and I guess that's probably why you also got to chat with Joe as well. It sounds like
I know Joe since I was 15. He's a black belt under my teacher. We're both black belts under the same teacher.
Right.
And
Okay.
I mean, the truth here's the truth is one of the biggest reasons why 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu is as big as it is because, you know, because of Joe Rogan. I mean,
Yeah,
he
definitely.
did a lot. I mean, a lot of people say that different people did different things for jiu-jitsu. I genuinely believe Joe Rogan was the biggest thing that happened to jiu-jitsu because he talked about it on his podcast. He made it cool for dudes to want to do jiu-jitsu.
It's true.
Joe,
yeah.
In my opinion, no one has done more for jiu-jitsu than Joe Rogan. No one.
I love podcasts, I guess, and Joe Rogan for me was the podcast guy. So I never had any interest in jiu-jitsu specifically. I had growing up, I used to love watching Bruce Lee movies and Jackie Chan movies, and I had an outside interest in martial art. I really respected it, and I read a bit about the Pankration back in the day in ancient Greece, right? Which sounds like it's closely related to what we consider as
100%, bro.
right.
I love that you brought that up. Thank you for bringing that up.
I wanted to ask you about that actually, and what you thought about it, and how closely tied it is with this modern version of this mixed martial arts thing.
Absolutely. Pankration meaning all powers. It was a martial art that encompassed striking, all forms of striking, all forms of grappling. So it was a complete mixed martial art. And basically it was MMA with a lot less rules. I believe there wasn't biting allowed, but there were groin strikes allowed and there were gouges allowed. It was a very brutal form of fighting. It was more brutal than what we see today. And I believe it was contested in sand. And the way to win was to either knock the guy out, submit the guy, make the guy raise his thumb, or that they would fight to the death. And it was an Olympic sport. It was part of the Olympics. So from that perspective, it would make a lot of sense to bring MMA into Pankration.
Yeah.
Excuse me, it would to bring MMA back to the Olympics.
Yeah.
So my understanding, because I read multiple books, and I'm going to give the perspective from what I read. I wasn't there. There were basically two forms: Anno Pankration, meaning upright, and then there was Kato Pali, which was ground fighting. They had that. So very interesting that the ancient Greeks had the concept of ground fighting, and then there's also wrestling. They had different forms of wrestling. So we Greeks gave the concept of mixed martial arts, submission fighting, boxing. We gave that to the world. We gave that. And I'm saying it that way so it's understood because, people don't understand that.
Yeah, true.
True. And I know what a lot of people would say. He's just being a super proud Greek, but it's good to talk about history and acknowledge what we did and what we gave because, it is.
Yeah, I know. Being a Greek is kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like a curse as well sometimes because you're stating things that are factual, but because you're Greek, it's considered, you're just one of those proud Greeks. But I'm just stating what happened. I mean, I tell people, I can't change history for you. I'm just telling you what happened, But anyway.
Fuck those motherfuckers. You know what? Fuck those motherfuckers.
Oh, I don't care. I say it as it is. You have to. I'm not going to be embarrassed of my culture. I mean, why? I don't get that. It is what it is.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. And the way things have become. So right. Look, I was censored for 5 years, dude.
Right.
I was legitimately censored.
Yeah.
And I had to navigate around that. Everything that I'm not supposed to talk about now, I talk about on purpose. I'm gonna show them what the fuck it means to be a Greek. It means that we hit our fucking knees for nobody. We only hit our knees to God. That's what it means to be a Greek. Eleftheria y thanatos.
That's it. Exactly.
That's it, dude. That's it. And you know what? Fuck these motherfuckers that want to control shit. They want to hush people down. We gotta have balls, and the only way to do it is to be like a fucking Greek. That's it. Eleftheria y thanatos. I tell myself that every day. I have a Greek flag in my room. I have the flag of. I have a Greek flag. I have a Constantinople flag. Every time I look at that flag, I think Eleftheria y thanatos. That's what that flag represents, and it also represents the cross of Jesus Christ. And I know a lot of people say different things, but a lot of people don't understand that also the New Testament was written in Greek first. It's our job to wake our people up because there's a lot of Greeks that are asleep. Our job is to wake them up.
One of the reasons I started the podcast was because I felt like people weren't aware that Greeks around the world are kicking goals, are achieving things. And so as I invite guests to come on the podcast, I'm showcasing examples one at a time that there are great Greeks in the world, and we are great still, and we will continue to be. We're here, we're present. Because a lot of people, Greeks included, we look at the past as this thing, this burden, as though we were great and we're no longer great. I think
we are great. We're the DNA of greatness.
It's in us, and I wanted to showcase that as an example for other Greeks as well, to realize that we're here, we're present, and we're great. And I'm going to take it one step further and just say that I believe, with all the trouble in the world, and this might be a bit controversial, with all the trouble in the world, my feeling is that the world can go back to its foundations and its roots, and Greece has a part to play in that. And if we can go back to that place as the world, we go back to those foundations that set up what was so great about the world once upon a time: democracy, philosophical thought, fundamentals in medicine, science, and all that sort of stuff. That process of the way the Greeks thought is what I would love to see the world go back to take it to the place that it should be, in my opinion, the way I see it.
I couldn't agree more. First of all, democracy, the way it's conducted today around the world, is a sham.
Exactly.
It's a fake democracy. It's only a facade. It's only in the name, but not genuinely in the practice, because there's been so much time, so much level of sophistication, of manipulation, and how that manipulation is done. So I agree 100%. We need to go back to genuine democracy. In America, we actually need to execute the First Amendment, freedom of speech. I genuinely believe in that. I love the American Constitution. I genuinely believe in it. I believe it needs to be executed as it was designed.
So, Dionysi, just a quick little game I play on the podcast here as well. It's called Castaway, where I ask you to pick one Greek food to have on this deserted island that you're on, one Greek food, and one Greek singer's discography that you can have with you. Who would you pick, and what food would you pick?
Pork souvlaki and tyrokafteria.
Awesome.
And then we're going with either Notis Fakianakis.
Yep.
Or Panos Chiamos.
Okay. Would you like those guys to be on the island with you, or just their music?
Just the music.
Alone time. Bit of alone time.
Yeah, just the music. You know, to see them, we're going to the Bouzoukia. We're going live.
Yes. I like it.
You know, so when you're in the islands, it's either by yourself or with a woman.
Yes.
Not a man.
That makes sense. Unless you want to practice your jiu-jitsu. I don't know.
That's
Do you need
true.
a partner?
That's true. That's true. We can still, her and I, we can do leg locks in the bed.
Good idea. I like it. Yeah, that's very creative.
Yes,
thinking.
leg locks, arm bars, chokes, back takes. Absolutely.
So I wanted to ask you as well.
All the torture.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you as well. 3 times world champion, very, very amazing achievement. At a young age as well. how do you set yourself goals when you've reached all those goals that you wanted to reach? You know, how do you reach those next level goals? How do you motivate? You know, you've been motivated to reach those goals all your life. How do you then set new goals and motivate yourself to accomplish those goals as well?
So absolutely, once you succeed with a goal, you need another goal. So you always need to have new goals. That's another thing. And as far as motivation goes, there's many days that I wake up and I don't feel like doing what I'm doing. I force myself to do it. Your discipline is what makes you, and lack thereof that breaks you. So
I love it. That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
it's all about discipline. It's all about choosing the difficult. You have to be willing to choose the difficult. That's what
Yeah.
it is,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And the most important thing is to work on days that you don't feel like working.
Hmm.
I actually train 7 days a week.
Oh, okay.
I don't take
Yeah.
any days off.
So you
I
lead
don't
by
believe in.
example as a teacher as well, from the sounds of things.
I do my best.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do my best. I try. I do my best. I used to take days off. I don't take days off anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I train every day.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. I've
Uh,
seen your posts on Instagram. You're always posting either inspirational quotes or your training, and it's like every day I can see you're training and inspiring, training and inspiring.
yeah. I feel like when I train, it makes me more powerful. It makes me more confident. I love it. I love the feeling of training. I love the feeling of getting better. My goal is to improve by 1% every day. That's my goal.
That's
Every
awesome.
every single day, I'm just trying to make 1% improvement. There's other people that are like, oh, I want to do more. I want to do this. I want to do that. I'm just interested in just doing 1%. Um, and I understand that this is a long-term project. Like
Mm.
what I'm involved in right now, I have a 20-year plan. I have a 30-year plan. I have a 40-year plan. Um, you know, my goal is basically to run my teams, run my empire. My vision is to have a school in every city in the world. That's my vision, like Alexander, like straight up. Uh, I mean, I helped do that with my teacher with 170, but eventually the goal is going to be the same with me and my name. That's my goal. That's my long-term goal.
That's a legacy you're
That's
going to
what
leave behind with that. Yeah.
yeah. And I mean, I feel like I already did that with 10th Planet. I did that with a different name. Now I'm going to do it with mine.
With yours. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a very long term project. It's not something that you see in a year, not that you see in 3 5. It's something you see in 10. You don't this is not a
Mm.
it's not a project that you see immediately,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like that's what a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people want instant results.
Hmm.
It's going to take time. I've my academy in San Francisco too that I've owned since I was 20 years old.
Right.
Owned
Wow.
it for
Okay.
15 years. As far as fighting goes, I'm gonna fight again, but when I get paid. Like my last fight had 1.2 million views. A lot of people don't understand that, and I didn't make money off that fight. And all these people are making money except me. I refuse to fight if I don't get paid. I refuse to fight if it's not on like pay-per-view. I refuse. Like I've already won what I wanted to win. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, I honestly don't care because that's not how I make my money. The truth is, I'm 35. If I fight once a year, I'm happy.
I imagined as well. Sorry to interrupt. If you've got that kind of record, isn't that also for the promoters a selling point? Which means you should get something for that because they use that to promote the fight, right?
It is, but here's another reality. Something that I'm not trying to get too much into is that, there were a lot of political issues,
Right.
and I'm not gonna lie, those political issues were with one of the strongest powers in the game. It no longer exists, thank God. But we're good. But we had that issue for 5 years. That's a real fucking thing. There's still healing going on in that.
Yeah, for sure. And
So
I'm sure,
it's all good.
And I'm sure politics still plays a role in some respect, because it doesn't disappear from any sport or any kind of athletic sphere completely. It's always there to some extent. It's just something we have to deal with, right?
You're 100% right. And like, people don't know, they don't understand the politics. There's so many politics behind my game. Fighting is the dirtiest sport. Fighting is the dirtiest sport from a cheating perspective, from a political perspective, from a drug perspective. Nothing is dirtier than fighting. And it is what it is. It's cool. I grew up in the game. I know what the game is. And I'm not discouraged by it. I'm not discouraged by it because I've been dealing with it now. I've been dealing with it all my life. That's just the fucking game.
It's part of the game. Yeah, that's how you got to look at it.
Yeah. Just the good and the bad. Like, dude, every day, straight up every day is a fucking war.
Yeah.
Gotta wake up. Like for me, I'm in a sport of war. I'm not confused. Maybe other people are confused and they don't understand. Jiu-Jitsu is a martial art. The meaning of the word martial art is warlike, or as in pertaining to war art. And that's what we do. There's fighters, and every day you got to be ready for war, and that's life, and some people, they prefer not to think about it this way because they're afraid.
Where can people find you, Dionisi, and reach out to you if they want to chat with you or just, say hi or whatever, collaborate with you?
At Denny Prokopos, Instagram, Instagram.
Denny Prokopos.
My like Facebook is at the max. Denny Prokopos Instagram, or Denny Prokopos. They're calling it X now. I was gonna say Twitter, but that's what I mean.
Yeah. If someone's you're in San Francisco now, right?
I am.
Yeah, if someone is in San Francisco and they're hearing this and they want to learn from
San Francisco Jiu-Jitsu,
Awesome.
3391 Mission Street.
Okay. We'll provide all the links and the details as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother.
Dionisi, really appreciate you chatting with me, opening up. Really enjoyed it. And if I'm ever down that way or you're ever down this way, would be great to catch up and have a chat.
Absolutely. I've been to Australia twice.
Is that right?
I've been to Australia twice. I taught seminars at 10th Planet, Melbourne.
Oh, Melbourne.
I didn't even say. I said Melbourne. I didn't say Melbourne like most. I said Melbourne.
Noticed. How long were you in Melbourne for, or in Australia for?
So I've come twice to Australia to teach seminars at 10th Planet Melbourne. I love Australia. Do you know what I love about Australia? There's so many Greeks.
Yeah, in Melbourne, especially, for sure. In Melbourne. Yeah.
I loved it. Australia is so beautiful, and Melbourne is so nice. I love the people of Melbourne. I loved it. I'm not going to lie to you. I came there and I'm like, fuck, I could live in this country. Yeah. There's not too many countries I've been to that I say that, but I'm like, fuck, I could live here. There's so many Greeks. They all speak English.
Yeah. You don't get that in New York, for example? There's plenty of Greeks there, right? Or LA?
Yeah, it's not the same.
Okay.
It's not the same. Melbourne is special, bro.
Okay.
It's special. It's special from that perspective. There's more Greeks there than I've seen anywhere outside. And I loved it. I loved Australia. The weather's beautiful. The people are very nice. It's nice, clean country.
Me personally, I've always said that Melbourne is probably the best city in Australia. The weather is a little bit funny, but it's a great city for me. Lots of options, lots of Greek culture there. They've got a suburb there called Oakley. It's like a Greek city, like a Greek town. And
I love it. I
don't know
love
if
it.
you went there. Yeah, I don't know if you went there.
They took me to many places, but like, what really blew my mind? They took me like to this club. I'm forgetting the name. It was like a popular club. And I just go there and I see all these Greeks and I'm like, oh man, I love it.
Is it called Kinisi?
No, it was like it had an American name.
Oh, okay.
But like the Longhorn or something like that. I don't know,
okay.
but
Don't know it. Yeah.
I walked in there and it had an American name, and I walked in there and there was like Greek music playing, and there's all these Greeks, and I'm like, oh, dude, this is fucking awesome. I love it. I'm loving this.
Everyone that's tuned in, thank you for listening once again, tuning in, and stay tuned next week for another episode of the Great Greeks podcast. Take care, everyone.